It is my moral duty to protect mankind from whatever devious plan you have in mind. Now, move along. I suspect that even time travelers are vulnerable to the Colt 45.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are Star Trek veterans, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today we start Season 6. We're discussing the first episode of Season 6, Time's Arrow Part 2. Yeah. And just a little housekeeping here. We're actually going to be switching our release schedule a little bit. It's going to be once every 2 weeks now. To be perfectly honest, is mostly due to me. Since, things have gone back to normal. Well, sort of, quote-unquote, now that we're pretending the pandemic's over and we're back to work and all that stuff, I just have not been coping very well and just haven't had the energy to edit these episodes in time for once a week. It's just been kind of a lot, so we're switching the schedule up to do once every 2 weeks, but hopefully that will help get things more consistent, because I know we've been missing lots of weeks and stuff like that. So without further ado, let's jump into the recap for Time's Arrow Part 2.
Okay, before I get into the recap, I just want to say, it's not, Maggie, I don't want you to put this on yourself. It's truly, listen, we have jobs, and we have stuff, and this is a hobby. We don't get paid for this. This is for fun. Mm-hmm. So we've been doing this for nearly 3 years. It's a lot. It's a lot of work for something we do for fun. So there's life.
It's not just that. It's what it comes down to is we started this during the pandemic when we all had a good amount of time on our hands. And that obviously is not the case in the same way that it once was.
We're not done. We're going. We're still continuing. We're every other week. It just makes things, it'll be more sustainable for us long term.
Yeah.
So we're not going anywhere. Just,
I mostly said that because I know I'm the one that edits the episodes, so I'm sort of the main bottleneck of the episodes getting out. So I just wanted to, acknowledge that.
All right. Recap. Mm-hmm. Pray for me. Okay, I'm gonna kind of be lightly reading from my notes because I wrote these notes a week ago. And I kind of don't... I'll remember once I start talking. Anyway, okay, Let's get into it. Okay, so we start off fucking Mark Twain. I hate Mark Twain. No offense to real Mark Twain, but TNG Mark Twain, I fucking hate this guy.
What are you talking about? He's fantastic.
Oh God, yeah. He
so
fucking sucks.
I love him.
So we
so
start
annoying.
off of him just walking down the street, talking way too fucking loud about this, about time travelers. Also, he's on a dirty ass street and he's in a white suit.
Yeah.
I cannot even explain how much I hate that. That he is asking for trouble, and I wish I could give him trouble.
That's based on his actual attire, right?
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I just still hate it. I hate a white suit.
Right.
Where are you? Miami? No. Unless you're in Miami, you're not. Why are you wearing all white? They're in San Francisco. That is not Miami.
This is very early San Francisco, though.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Still not Miami.
Especially in the 1800s where everything's still so fucking dirty.
Yep.
Yeah, just white suit. That's so dumb. Okay, so also I should mention almost every single, I'm just sort of peeking through my notes a little bit, and I just write fucking Mark Twain so many fucking times. Or just fuck you, Mark Twain. So, yeah. So he's just like telling fucking everybody, or no, he's not telling everybody, he's telling some guy that there's people from the future, and just like shut the fuck up, Mark Twain. So Data then exits I guess it's the hotel, and Mark Twain follows him, and the people who were the villains last episode, they notice, and do they follow him? I don't know. I didn't write it down. So then we cut to a morgue in which Dead C, oh my god, Dr. C and Riker are in the morgue in incredible outfits. I was so happy. Truly fantastic. But Riker is a cop, so points lost for that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Also, where did he get that policeman's outfit?
That's what that other policeman wants to know too, apparently. Actually, in my note, I wrote, Riker is a cop, sad face. I literally drew a sad face.
Yeah. That's the one thing. They never explain where they got their outfits from.
No, they just have them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that honestly, that was in my notes somewhere of like, where the fuck did they get these clothes? Okay, so all the bodies that are coming in and the cause of death, they're saying, oh, it's cholera, but Dr. C is like, oh no, the nervous system has been depleted of electrochemical energy. The actual cause of death is being drained of their neural energy. So Dr. C realizes this is the perfect time to murder people and use disease as a cover.
No, it's like we discussed this last time, that it would have been way better to just use the use like the plague or something like that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. She says this. This is not me.
I know.
Yeah. Dr. C's like, this makes sense, and I'm like, Dr. C, I'll allow it just because
They just want an excuse to shoot in like 1890s period.
Yeah.
And listen, I love it, but yeah, sometimes
it's not good reasoning.
TNG like almost like they'll like tiptoe at something, and I'll be like, oh, I love it, but I can never love something straight on with TNG. Apparently, this would be some kind of issue.
Yeah, there's always a catch.
Yeah, oh yeah. TNG is the catch-22 of television shows. Oh yeah, okay. So now they're in I guess like a boarding house. And my note is, where did they get the money to rent a place to stay? Where did they get the outfits? Who did their hair? And Riker has never looked worse to me. 'Cause he's got a slicked back middle part in his hair. And I've like, and the cop look, I'm just like, Riker, how could you do this to me on every... The only thing I would have made it worse is if he had a mullet. Yeah. And then I would have just called it a day and cried.
Although, as we find out, they didn't have money to rent a place.
Yes. Yeah. Immediately after I wrote that, then I did note, I love... Geordi looked great. Picard's look, this worked for me.
Yeah.
I mean, Picard's look is just Patrick Stewart.
I love it. I love it.
That's the whole point. He's just dressed as himself.
I love it. A+, no complaints.
And we discovered they managed the deep V.
Yeah.
By just having his shirt unbuttoned really low.
I knew that, if TNG puts their mind to something, they can really accomplish it. So we meet Mrs. Carmichael, who is their landlady, in which she calls Pickard.
Mr. Pickard.
And rent is due 1 p.m. on Wednesdays, but it's 1 p.m. on Thursdays. And I was like, how long have they been there that they are renting? Instead of going to a hotel, they're going to a
okay, this is a very...
I don't know. Maybe this is like just an era thing. I'm not familiar with.
It is an era thing. People would rent places like by the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I keep thinking like long-term stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I think hotels were like only if you were really rich.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it wasn't uncommon to like, rent a boarding house for like a week or two or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think people like, there were people that were like just in town for like a week more often back then.
Because to me, like, I know boarding houses. I just kind of assume they're for like longer term stays, not like in and out.
A hotel is if you are vacationing.
Boarding houses if you're here for
a while.
See, that's what I thought. Yeah, so that's what I thought.
And that would happen pretty often. Like people would travel into town for work for a little while, and the reason that they would do things weekly, besides the fact that it just made more sense, is all of the bureaucracy around like getting a job nowadays, where we have to wait several weeks to pass this and get word to your bank and all that stuff, and there wasn't any of that. They would just hand you cash for doing a job, and then you could just pay the landlord with cash.
In my notes, I just was like, how long have they been there? What's this lease term? I work in commercial real estate industry, and my first thought was like, what's the term here? Yeah. What's the conditions?
And actually, like,
what are the options at this?
The type of apartments we have nowadays are like a pretty recent invention. Like, I think it wasn't until like the Georgian era that like started having apartments that were like, your own single separate apartment, because it would be a lot of boarding houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just thinking, because like in a lot of the like Regency era novels that I read, they're like, oh, they have apartments or a set of rooms. So, but that's England. I don't know if that's like, if it makes a difference with like, yeah.
Okay.
England was pretty different in that regard.
Okay. Okay. So the crew is like, oh, we're a theater troupe. And they took so long in coming up with what they were performing. And I just kind of stared at Picard and I was like, Shakespeare, you dumb fuck. Shakespeare. It's your literal fucking whole thing. How did it take you this fucking long for someone to be like, Midsummer Night's Dream? I was like, I love you, Picard, but also like that was too long to come up with something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Picard's like, oh, we'll pay you all the rent plus a bonus when we're up and running. And Mrs. Carmichael's like, nice try, bro. Pay me or get the fuck out.
Yeah.
What did I write? Oh, Jack. Okay. I was like, Jock. Who the fuck is Jock? Okay. So okay. Listen, last episode, Jack was fine. The bellhop.
Yeah.
This episode, I was like, how dare you, Jack? So Jack lets fucking Mark Twain into Data's room. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh yeah, my friend, I just gotta like come in. And I was like, get the fuck out. Like, you have nothing to do with this. This is none of your business. And he's just snooping around his room. And Jack's like, hey, I have the urge to go to Alaska for some reason. And I just was like, listen, Riker's around somewhere. You can ask him some questions if you have to the Alaska.
I think
he's the right guy to ask.
I think the Alaska thing's a reference to his novel Call of the Wild.
Oh no, I know.
Oh,
I did some
Googling.
Sorry,
yeah.
But I just was like, Riker's literally the only person from Alaska. And I'm like, he's literally there. He's like literally just like in the vicinity. So that's like, feels like a missed opportunity for him to be like, hey, Alaska. And Riker would be like, I literally am from Alaska, which again, does not feel like a real thing.
I love how much that bothers you that Riker's from Alaska.
It just doesn't feel like to me, Riker feels like he'd be like from somewhere like Chicago or like, I don't know, somewhere on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I don't know, like Boston, like Massachusetts or something.
You're kind of right. He doesn't
seem like he'd be from frickin' Alaska. And there's, again, nothing wrong with Alaska. Just to me, Riker does not seem like he'd be from Alaska.
You're right. He does have...
Alaska's a very different place 400 years from now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, going off from what I know right now.
Yeah. But you're right. He does give off a Chicago vibe.
Yeah, I wonder, I don't know where Jonathan Frakes
Frakes.
is from, but I wonder if that's...
I have no idea.
You know what? I feel like it's necessary. Very quick Google. This is important. Jonathan.
Pennsylvania.
Hey, he's from
East
Pennsylvania?
Coast.
Listen, I was very close. I got the right vibe, though.
From
Right?
Belafonte.
Oh, interesting name. Yeah, so it's weird. Okay, so Mark is like fucking around with Data's stuff, and he clearly doesn't understand shit. So like, don't fucking touch shit you don't know what it is. And then he like takes a piece from Data's like little setup, and then he like they hear noises. He hears a noise, so he runs and hides in a fucking wardrobe. And then Data and Guinan come in, and they're like, oh, we found the cave, but it's not super accessible. And Guinan immediately, like, they notice, oh, that chip, like, some kind of, like, chip. It was like, oh, it's gone. And then she's like, it's fucking Mark Twain. And, oh, then Data's like, oh, it's super toxic. And then, of course, they hear a noise in the closet because Mark Twain's like, I'm holding something toxic. And then they open the closet, like the wardrobe door, and Mark Twain does his best Urkel impression of like, I was like, can you fucking not? I hate, oh my God, I hate Mark Twain. And I just, just right after it, I fucking hate this guy. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna uncover your plot. And Guinan's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And Mark tries to catch Data, like, offhand. He's like, oh, where in Switzerland that he's from? And Data's like, I'm French. And he's like, you really thought you could, like, catch Data in a thing? No.
Yeah.
Nice try, Mark fucking Twain.
Data can keep his lies straight.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wrote in my note, they should have taught Mark... This is like really mean, but it's like, I wish that they taught men shame because because the fact that Mark Twain is so not self-conscious of like his hair, his mustache, his fucking white outfit, I'm like, he should have.
Okay, anyone that wears all white is definitely like conscious of their outfit.
I wrote, no, he has undeserved confidence. I do not think he is conscious. I think that this is the kind of person who was never, this is also why he's entitled and thinks he constantly is part of this and keeps butting in because he thinks he's never been told to fuck off. This is just like such like an entitlement, and he's never had to feel self-conscious. I bet nobody's ever said shit to him in his entire life. Again, this is TNG Mark Twain. I don't know much about real Mark Twain. So to me, I just was like, they needed to teach him shame. Somebody needs to like publicly embarrass him or some shit. I don't know. It just, God, he's the fucking worst. And Guinan's like, bye, Mark, this is like none of your fucking business. And then he's like, it is my business and I'm gonna stop you. And I'm like, can someone just kill me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. Okay, not kill me, but like, I was screaming.
Like, he refuses to have an actual conversation with them. Like, he will accept no other explanation other than they're there to harm humanity. Like,
yeah, he's coming up with his idea and that's it. He's never been told he's wrong. He's never been told shit, so he automatically cannot be moved from his position. Mm-hmm. And I just like, fucking asshole. Okay, so in the hospital, Picard is, changing light bulbs. I feel like that's like a joke. How many Picards does it take to change a light bulb? I don't know.
I like that.
And Geordi and Troy are really just hanging out. Listen, they really just hang out this episode. I'll allow it, though. It's fine. Oh, hospital security is also terrible because fucking everybody comes in here. And, like, none of these people work here or have any actual reason to be there other than their, like, investigation.
Yeah.
Like, they have no authority. They just, like, bust in. Oh, we learned like some guy was complaining about a doctor and a nurse, and I wrote my notes. Security at Guinan's party was more solid than the fucking hospital.
Yeah.
So Dr. C is scanning, and like the sensor goes off, and she then notices a strange doctor and nurse who are, of course, the fancy dressed people from last episode and the villains. So Dr. C is like, thinks very quick on her feet and is like, there's some medical jargon to buy some time. And the nurse is about to like suitcase Dr. C. And but then the rest of the gang comes in, and Geordi knocks the quote-unquote doctor down, and Riker hits him with the phaser, and they disappear.
We got a good old-fashioned hospital fight.
Yeah. Then the real police shows up, and they're like, who the fuck are you, to Riker? He's like, I'm from downtown. And he's like, I was downtown. I worked at downtown. I don't know who the fuck you are. And Riker's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you're all coming down for questioning. And Riker's like, I have the utmost respect for the law. And then uppercuts the cop.
See, Riker's a good cop.
No comment. And yeah, they all run out. And then the cop, he also wanted to take like the snake cane in for evidence. The snake cane belonged to like the strange fancy couple. Okay, so Data, he shows up right in time for like, the gang, okay, everybody's running out of the hospital, the bridge crew running out of the hospital. Data shows up right in time with like a carriage, and they basically like, it was a getaway vehicle, they bust off, and then, so as they kind of go away, I did note this, in the background, a man, runs up on the sidewalk to get out of the way for the carriage.
Yeah.
And then very dramatically, like, kind of turns back to the road and, like, goes back on the road to, like, watch him ride away. I should have taken a timestamp of this, but I watched it, like, 4 times because of the way he goes onto the sidewalk and then goes back on the road very dramatically. It's very silly. Okay, anyways, so back in like the boarding house, they phaser the cane. It turns into a disgusting snake for a moment. The aliens appear to... okay, here's some jargon that I wrote word for word from the episode. The aliens appear to be able to concentrate the distortion and direct it to a specific time and place. Oh, just kidding, because then I wrote blah, 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 science.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought I wrote more of this stuff, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know.
Yeah, so Data found the cavern. Mrs. Carmichael comes back in, and she's knocking, and Data and Dr. C just like start performing a scene from Midsummer Night's Dream. And they let her, Mrs. Carmichael, and they're like, oh, thank God you're here. You really need to read this part. And she's like, the fuck, but okay. Troy turns Geordi's book upside down, which is very silly. There's a lot of like really little silly things. And so Ms. Carmichael reads her part, and then Picard goes, that was truly unique. Okay, so then Picard reunites with Guinan. It's very cute. I just wrote, Jesus fucking Christ, more Mark. Okay, so now I guess he's talking with that reporter. But that reporter, low-key, looks like Wes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So, they're in, like, the cavern. Geordi's studying it. He's like, the entire cavern has been configured to, like, focus the space-time distortion, just like a lens. I wrote more science stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Fucking Mark, no one asked you. Oh, with a gun now? And I just wrote again, nobody had ever told Mark he should feel bad. I really hate him. This, honestly, like, this guy might be like truly one of my top hated characters from this entire show.
Really?
So
wow.
I hate him.
That's saying a lot, actually.
Yeah.
That's also just not fair to the great Mark Twain.
No, TNG Mark Twain. I don't know much about real Mark Twain.
That's what I'm talking about, the great TNG Mark Twain.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So, because Mark goes, oh God, he goes, I suspect that even time travelers are vulnerable to the Colt 45. It's like, Mark, get the fuck away with this fucking gun. And as Mark is monologuing about his appointment, what? I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about in this. The fancy doctor and nurse appear to snatch the cane right out of Troy's hand. Data fights him. Oh, but then explodes from the energy from the cane, and we see his head, fly off and rolling on the ground, and I'm traumatized again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Great.
That's not heavy-handed at all.
Yep.
Not one bit.
So the light door opens, and the fancy doctor runs through it. Picard tells the bridge crew to go after him. Then Picard goes to Guinan, who's been injured. And Mark decides to literally dive through into the light door as it closes. And I did write in my notes, I don't know if this is an accurate depiction of Mark Twain's voice, but if it is, it's unbearably grating, and I hate it.
There are recordings of him talking.
Does he sound like this?
I don't recall, to be honest.
Because if this is a real impression, ooh, sorry, Mark Twain, but if this is not, then I'm sorry, Mark Twain, in a different way. Okay, so now we're back in the other cave. Worf calls. They find Data's body. Okay, and they transport 6 because fucking Mark Twain is like, I'm going to the Enterprise. So Riker asks security to take Mark away, and Mark, of course, is insulted. But the first thing he says upon seeing Worf is he calls him a werewolf. Which, like, I mean, obviously Worf doesn't actually look like a werewolf, but it's like a little bit funny. So Troy volunteers to supervise Mark. Like, Troy really took one for the team here. So Picard and Guinan back in the cave. Guinan wakes up, and it almost like he's like cradling her, and it looked like they were about to kiss, and honestly not bad about it. And then he's like, oh yeah, our relationship is far beyond friendship. I'm like, you know it is, or something, whatever's happening right now. And Guinan's like, hey, what's that? Oh, I don't even know what this is a reference to. And then Picard's like, that's history fulfilling itself. I don't know what this is a reference to, actually. I did not write it down. So,
so for the record, Mark Twain does not sound as exaggerated as this, but the only recording of him is from quite late in his life. And because of that, they exaggerated an older sounding man to begin with.
Party. So we cut back to the Enterprise, and Guinan, current day Guinan, is talking to Riker, and he's like, what is he supposed to do? And she's like, she tells him what happens, that might affect any decision he would make. And Riker's like, I gotta fucking do something. Riker's gotta go get his man. Mark, of course, is complaining about cigars. And he's like, it's not the same if manual labor wasn't involved. And I was like, fuck off, Mark Twain. Because they're like, oh, here, we can get anything from the replicator. Yeah. And he's like, but I need my shit to be done with by manual labor. I need someone else to do it for me. Like, what the fuck, Mark Twain?
Like, considering where tobacco is grown, probably, like, if not straight up slaves, then people who are, like, severely exploited.
Yeah. Yep. So then Mark comments that select few live in luxury. Oh, because he talks about the Enterprise, and he's like, select few live in luxury on the starships, but there are other people who are suffering. And And also, like, they say they're exploring, but that's what the Spanish, Dutch, and Portuguese said. And then I just wrote, oh no, the worst guy you know just made a good point.
Yeah.
Then I just wrote what in capital letters with an exclamation mark. But again, I do not know what it's a reference to. Oh, okay. Then Troy responds to him of this is what I said what to. Troy's like, poverty was eliminated on Earth a long time ago, and a lot of other things disappeared with it. Hopelessness, despair, cruelty. I'm like, what are you talking about? The first episode of this show, you're like, hopeless, despair, or whatever the fuck the 3 words are that she kept saying.
Well,
I'm like,
to be fair,
Troy, that's not even true.
She was describing an alien.
Still.
Yeah, to be fair, that was a giant space jellyfish that was trapped underneath a city. That was also the city itself.
But people have still felt these feelings since then.
Yeah, but she's talking about, like, as a society, like, people generally live happily now.
Yeah, I think she meant as, like, on a large scale.
And I think that's pretty clear from the context of what she's saying. Or what they're talking about,
I don't believe
rather.
it's true. That's just my opinion.
Well,
I think because they talk a lot, they do this a lot. They'll talk about something super broad as if it's like true, but then we know based on other things we've seen in the show. I don't just mean like this particular example, but like that we blatantly know is not true. So that's just, to me, I'm like, I do not believe that these things were completely eliminated and disappeared, because that's what she literally says.
Yeah.
Earth in Star Trek is considered like a paradise now, basically.
Well, I can think of someone on that paradise who's not doing fucking well. Wes! Having to redo his whole school year and be publicly shamed. Okay, so then Mark's like, I come from a time where there's terrible prejudice, the rich profit on the backs of the poor. And Troy's like, yeah, that no longer exists. I'm like, no, we know this is not true.
Yeah.
Really, which rich people on Earth are profiting from the poor now? Or in Star Trek's time?
In that time? I don't know. I don't spend enough time on Earth in the 24th century. But in
no money
general,
on Earth.
that's not true.
Earth doesn't have money anymore. So they can't be profiting because there's no money.
Oh, okay. Well, I always forget about that money thing. But listen, here's the thing.
Point for you to be pretty sure about what the implications are with what
Here's
she's
the
saying.
thing, though. I would believe humans will find a way to exploit each other one way or another. So even if they're not making money profit, nobody said money profit. They just said profit. So there's like, it could be like social, I imagine there's still shit that goes on Earth that some way or another, it's not the like, odyssey that they want us to think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so back. No, we're already on the.
I think it might be in the way that like our lives are markedly better than the lives like in Mark Twain's time, even though there still are all those societal issues and stuff. Like all the same shit is still like true today that he's talking about, but like there have been improvements in society that like,
like I don't doubt that like in the 24th century they've come a long way. I just think that humans are like, as good as you want people to think, like, they will still find a way to fuck someone else over.
Yeah.
I am confident in that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole point of Star Trek is that they're looking for a future where that's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I just don't think, even from what they present on the show, I don't think that's true. Because like if they really like, say followed like a show Bible to a T and made sure to not show examples of how people constantly like are getting taken advantage, like just are not doing great, then that's one thing. But they have like, we know this is like not true.
Yeah.
But okay. Anyways, so
Alrighty.
on Enterprise, Geordi is rebooting Data. Mark is like, "Oh, that's my watch. I think I can make this about me." And he just stands very close to Data for some reason. It's so fucking weird. Okay, so back in the cavern, Picard, the like fancy nurse, she's like there still, and he tries to talk to her, and he's like, we're gonna destroy your cave and the planet in the 24th century, and she's like, have fun with that, because you try to do that, it will fucking destroy everyone, and then everyone will die and you'll all disappear. And they're like, oh, ruh-roh. So then Riker is like, I'm going back for Picard, and Worf's like, we're gonna need to stick to a plan to stop the aliens from any more incursions on Earth. Any delay is unacceptable. What?
That's what Worf said.
Okay, yeah.
I think
because happening.
I think because Riker, like it's like he doesn't want to blow up the thing because he still wants to save Picard.
Right. Yes, right. And they're like, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Riker goes, if I can save Captain Picard, I consider that very acceptable. And then Worf goes, the captain would not. So Worf is like, I think we should fire at the alien habitat right away. And Riker goes to Troy, was like, he's fucking right. And then Riker's like, ugh, fine. And Geordi is working on bringing Data back. Geordi finds an iron filling and like back of Data's head. He's like, oh, how did that get in there? And I wrote, did Picard put it in there in the past so Geordi could use it in the future? Yes. Sort of. He puts like an encrypted note. But I thought he literally just like, I don't know where I thought Picard was getting paper. I literally thought first, I was like, oh, is there, or not paper, like, I thought there was going to be like a message that like Geordi could put on the computer. And I was like, I don't know how I think that is going to work, but I mean, I'm still technically right. It was a message. So then Data wakes up and he goes, torpedoes, phasing, aliens. Alien, I am processing a binary message entered into my static memory by Captain Picard. He basically just like programs him to be like, oh, we can't fire at a message from the past. And Data's like, we can't fire at the alien habitat. But don't worry, I'll explain later. And so then Data does explain that Picard thinks that firing the proton torpedoes may produce catastrophic effects due to the phase differential. Okay. They can destroy the habitat by modifying their weapons so that the force of the explosion is rephased into the aliens' time continuum. Great. While Geordi is, doing whatever to prepare the adjustments to the torpedoes, Riker is going on a rescue mission. But due to plot reasons, Dr. C concludes that if only one person can come back through the rift. So, fucking Mark is like, I'll do it. I'll be the hero. I'll take that bullet of going back to the time that I'm fucking from.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, fuck off, Mark. And he's like, I'll do it. I'll remain there so Picard can come back. Like, he's doing them some kind of fucking favor. It's like, no, Mark, he's like, oh, God. And then he's like, thank you, Data, because now I've had the best adventure man has ever had. And I just fucking hate him. And then, Mark finds Picard in the cavern. And Guinan finds him, like, immediately. And Mark's like, oh, Geordi got your message. And you need to, do frequency setting of 0.47 in the phaser. And it'll activate the core. Whatever. Doesn't matter. And Picard's like, oh, take care of... Oh, the cane! The cane! Not the core. The cane. He needs the cane. Okay, so Picard's like, oh, take care of Guinan and... and pay the bill at Mrs. Carmichael's place.
Can't forget.
Yeah. And Picard says, I wish time would have allowed me to know you better. And then Mark goes, well, you'll just have to read my books. What I am is pretty much there. and that makes me not want to read any Mark Twain books.
But you said it's TNG Mark Twain that you don't like, not the real Mark Twain.
Either way, I'm not interested in reading any Mark Twain books. I don't care enough about Mark Twain to read about him in real life, or also to look up anything about him in real life to know the difference. But I do hate this TNG Mark Twain. Oh, there's a reading on the planet that there's aliens. Riker says to fire. Then, of course, immediately Picard arrives on the planet. They transport him in just in time. We do not see O'Brien, but we do hear his name being called. We haven't seen O'Brien in a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't think you will anymore because the show is now running concurrently with DS9.
Oh, yeah.
Or will be this season, I think. Or was it what year was this broadcast again?
This is 1992.
Yeah, it's definitely during this season because there's a crossover episode.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's DS9 started I think at the beginning of 93. It was in January. It was in like a mid-season beginning and it had a shorter first season.
Okay. All right, party.
And yes, as you are probably aware now, O'Brien is a main character on DS9.
Yeah. All right, so then they scan, no further indication of Trolloc activity, and they head to the nearest starbase. Picard and Guinan have really intense eye contact back on the Enterprise. And thanks for that the last scene is of Mark choosing to leave his fucking pocket watch behind along with Data's head is the last fucking thing we see. And I was like, what the fuck? This this episode.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you mentioned this, but the way they save Data is that when Data exploded, his head stayed in the 1800s, but his body went back to the future.
Okay, you know what?
Yeah.
I didn't because I could not remember
Yeah.
what happened.
So they combined the old head that they found with his current body.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm reading this off and I'm just thinking to myself, wait, how the fuck did they get his head and body?
Yeah.
Because I remember it got blew up. Okay, they took his body back.
Yeah.
And then they used the head that they found in the future.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay.
So
that's funny.
I'm gonna now that you're done with that, I'm gonna segue into background corner because, wow,
Ooh.
my fucking god, this episode, it is a fucking miracle that it even got made as decently as it is, because it's not good. It is the first half basically nothing fucking happens.
Yeah.
And the second half is all a rush to the conclusion. The villains are
Nothing.
I don't know. They're plot devices, and that's about it. They don't make a lot of sense. Apparently, what one of the people in the writers' room says is that they basically boxed themselves into a corner with part one, and they didn't really know how to deal with the whole time travel aspect to begin with. So they were arguing behind the scenes, and there was a lot of that's not how time travel works, you idiot, with huge accusations and people falling back on primary sources like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as to how time travel works.
It doesn't matter. It's time travel. You could.
I know, but they wanted to be at least a little bit consistent, and I mean, they didn't do a terrible. No, they did.
Yeah.
They did because they both insinuate that they can change what happened in the past, but also that the past is written in stone. It has happened. It will always happen. This is how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There were lots of ideas that they dropped. Mostly little things. I wouldn't say little things, but things that wouldn't really have changed the episode that much. They wanted to start it off with them having spent a lot more time in the past, so that apparently Picard was going to be running a cafe, and there was a running joke in the episode about how bad the food was and things like that.
Honestly, would have loved that.
But so many things got dropped because the set was the outdoor set that they did, the on location stuff. That was dismantled in between the season and replaced with a New York set, and they're just like, all right, well, we got to use what we can for the outdoor stuff of this, so we got to limit our outdoor stuff as much as possible. Because that was an outdoor set at the Paramount lot.
Okay.
So, like, yeah, there was so much rewriting and arguing about what the hell to go on, or like how to even finish the episode. They were what do you call it? When they finally got to the script stage, like this is after. When they got to the teleplay stage after the script was written, they still kept changing the story. Going back and forth to like flesh out sections that they thought weren't fleshed out enough, and like cut other sections because of budget entirely. And it is an absolute mess. Jerry Taylor, who wrote the teleplay for it, flat out said that it was the most troubled episode of the year, at least in terms of like the background.
Oh, wild.
Yeah. So it's a mess. And you just saw it. It is a mess.
Yes.
There's really... I don't even know if there's a way that this could have been salvaged, considering the fact that they wrote part 1 without any idea about what they were going to do for part 2. And this is a running theme in Star Trek that I wish they'd fucking stop.
Yeah.
The only times when part 2 is just as or more successful than part 1... is when they write them for like the middle of a season.
Yeah.
So that it's something where like we have a general idea. We want to do a 2-parter episode because the episode is so like the idea that we have is so big that we need to turn it into that. Instead of this coming up with a part 1 and then going, this would be a nice cliffhanger. We'll figure out part 2 in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been like sitting on that for all of our recording time now because fuck, what a mess.
Yeah.
What a fucking mess.
Just like it also like of all the episodes to like sort of like argue and go back and forth on, it's like this one. This is the
reason that they needed to. The reason they needed to make a 2-parter episode was because advertising was ramping up for DS9.
No. I understand why it was a 2-parter, right? I just mean, like, earlier when you said, like, people were, like, arguing and, like, being like, that's not how time travel works, and, like, dying on hills and stuff like that. Like, really, this episode that you're arguing about?
But, I mean, no, let's be perfectly fair here. That was just to get the episode to be as presentable as possible. It's still not great, but like it's not as god-awful as some of the season 1 shit or anything.
No.
I wouldn't say it's like flat out offensive. It's just badly composed and kind of a mess of ideas.
Yeah, my whole thing is those writers that were like, arguing about it. Like, why are you wasting your energy on this?
Because they're nerds.
Yeah, I guess.
They're writing for Star Trek TNG. What do you want?
I just mean there are better episodes to try to argue about.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, in the end, this is what we got. I'm not going to fault them too much on it. I mean, it's better that they got their horseshit arguing out for this episode because... Let's face it, you and I both know there's some real bangers this season. Mm-hmm. And there's essentially what it comes down to is that while this episode may not have been great, it swings around for several of the other ones.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm psyched. I hope there's like a good follow-up to this because, this episode...
A follow-up to this? Dory, no. There is no follow-up to this episode.
Oh, no, I don't mean like literally follow. I just mean like I hope the next episode is good.
Yeah.
Following
I don't know
up
what the next one is off the top of my head.
We'll get to it.
I think the next one might be
Well, we'll say when we come to that part of the episode.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a Barclay episode, actually. That's all I'll say.
Oh, God. Reg is back. Back
Reg
again.
is back with a vengeance.
Tell a
with a
friend.
regence.
Back with the regence.
The broccoli returns.
I love that, back with a regence.
Thank you. I thought that was good.
So, yeah, I don't really have many comments to make about this episode because, it is what it is. if it weren't for Mark Twain, I would have had a much better time with this episode, honestly.
Right? They gave Troy and Geordi, like, well, okay, well, then I gave Geordi more to do a bit later. They gave Troy virtually almost nothing to do.
Yeah.
And they gave Mark Twain so much fucking stuff.
Yeah.
Like, who in that writer's room was like, hey, guys, I've got the best fucking idea. Let's make this about fucking Mark. Let's have Mark Twain be involved in fucking everything with this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, all right, let's be perfectly fair here.
No.
The writers didn't cast him.
But
whoever casted him, sir,
yeah,
ma'am.
The thing is that like I don't even hate the idea of like Mark Twain being the wrench that gets thrown into the works. It's just the way it was done was so fucking annoying. Like on top of his performance, the fact that he was like, I don't know, you could have made it more believable that he thought they were truly out to like get humanity, like more than like he's just like an arrogant like old man who wants to stick his fingers in everything.
Also, they like it's really wild to me because like people tell him in this episode it's none of your fucking business, and yet nonetheless he fucking persists. And he just keeps fucking going. And it's like, writers, you knew this is fucking annoying and dumb, and yet we have so much fucking Mark Twain.
Yeah.
Which is truly wild. Like, and the thing is, I feel like this episode could have been really fun, but I did not have fun.
Yeah.
It had like the potential, especially because like, listen, they're in a different time period. They're all in outfits. My favorite. Yeah. And it wasn't even fun. I barely got a fun scene. And Riker was a cop. That, like, sucked. At least they made it up with Picard's outfit.
Yeah.
Although he wears this crazy hat. Like, that hat is very tall.
Yeah.
But I guess back in the day, they loved a hat.
Who doesn't?
I'm not a hat girl.
All right, I think it's appropriate to move on to favorite moments and lines, unless...
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I liked... I guess I liked the 19th century costumes. Picard's costume in particular. Oh, I liked when they did... when Mrs. Carmichael comes in and she's like, fucking pay me rent.
Mr.
And he's
Pickard.
like, hey, join... Yeah. He's like, hey, we're doing a play.
Yeah,
and they get her to read it. I was like, that's so dumb. But
I especially liked how she didn't fall for like, hey, we'll pay you double next week, and she's like, nope, I want my money now.
Yeah.
Oh, did you like how they dealt with Geordi's visor? They just gave him.
Oh yeah,
like,
they just kept switching the glasses. Yeah. Geordi had a great outfit.
Did you notice that the cops like immediately suspected Geordi?
Geordi in particular?
I didn't notice that.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
either. I just saw like the group.
But that is a good subtle detail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think there was very much that I think there was like one. What's the line that I did? Oh, I liked that the man in this tiny little bit, who are like they get Data doing the getaway vehicle when the rest of the crew is coming out of the hospital, and then the guy jumps onto the sidewalk to get out of the way and then dramatically goes back onto the road to watch them go by. There's not a whole lot I liked with this episode.
I thought Dr. C was very cute in the nurse's outfit with like the tiny glasses.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cute. I thought the stuff between Picard and Past Guinan was good as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was fine.
I think there could have been more to it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about it. It was
like the stuff with Paskainen, there's no real establishment of a friendship there, despite the fact that this is supposed to be some like defining moment for them.
I mean, I think they become proper friends later. This is just like their first meeting, technically.
I know, it's just the point is that it's mostly inconsequential.
Yeah.
You know what I will, like, I do want to give Whoopi Goldberg some credit here of, like, the scenes with her when in the past, her and Picard, like, they don't have, like, the vibe, obviously, because they just meet, but, like, and then when we see them at the like, right at the end of the episode with them in like the current time, and it's just, I mean, acting, but like you can just like, oh, like the chemistry for them in like the past was like not quite there, but then in the current, in the 24th century, you're like, oh, there we go. And like, I know that's just that's like acting, that's literally the point of acting, but I did like to see like the difference of like, I like to see Guinan. I'm just happy to see Guinan.
Yeah.
For me, it's Riker saying, "I just want you to know that I have the utmost respect for the law," before belting a police officer in the face.
Yeah,
yeah, that was funny. Oh, I guess I did like where when Data and Guinan were in his hotel room and they know that Mark Twain is there, and he says, "Oh, it's unfortunate that he took that because it can be toxic, to humans with a." Extended exposure, and he drops the thing and they find him in the closet.
He's got the like, did I do that?
Yeah. All right. So in that case, let's move on to predictions for the next episode. Mm-hmm. So the next episode is in fact a Barclay episode. It's called
back, Reg.
Yeah. It's called Realm of Fear.
That's just my life.
Yeah. So your tidbit for this episode is that Barclay is trying to overcome his fear of the transporter, and during a transportation he thinks he sees something.
Sorry, this is like so on brand for Reg to be scared of the transporter.
Yeah.
I can't even be surprised. Oh my god, this is so on brand. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. Reg. Oh, but I haven't decided if I'm looking forward to seeing him or not. I mean, like, I guess on one hand, it's like, oh, okay, well, I know him, so it's like, oh, hey, Reg, but also, like, I don't remember last time we saw him, and was he a dick last time we saw him? I think he was.
Was the Cyrano de Bergerac thing the last time? Or...
No, I feel like there was something after where he got, like, really smart and was, like, a complete asshole.
Yeah, there's the one where,
right.
So I think that's
became,
after
like,
the Cyrano de Bergerac one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and he thinks he sees something. Okay. So I imagine... Ooh, okay, I'm going kind of left field with this.
Okay.
I think that maybe he, like, practices in the holodeck, which I don't know if the holodeck has the ability to, like, fake transport people within the room, just within the room. He's not leaving the room, obviously.
I think it probably does, because there's been some... like, sort of, when people try to explain the holodeck, they say that transporter technology is integrated into it. So,
okay.
It
so this
probably
might not be
could.
as left field.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it is still left field. Okay. So maybe he, like, sets up a scenario so he tries to be, like, comfortable in, like, the room, the transporter room. So, like, because just if he knows, like, this is a safe space, so he, like, practices, in the holodeck, and then when he inevitably will have some kind of anxiety attack, Reg, I feel like I am sympathetic. I promise you I'm sympathetic if you do have one. When he does it for real, he sees something, like, he's got to see some kind of figure, or maybe he sees something in his practice version. Okay, so maybe, actually, he's practicing in the holodeck, sees a weird thing when he's, like, practicing, and then he's like, huh, okay. So then he ends up having to do it for real, and it's okay. So he sees the thing in his practice versions, does the real version, and then he's like, wait, then what the fuck was that thing I saw in the practice version? Because it's supposed to be an exact, like, replica. Mm-hmm. And then he goes back to the holodeck to try to figure out what the fuck was that, because that's not the same. That's not what was in the real transporter room.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what I'm going with.
Okay.
Phantom in the holodeck.
Well, what do you think, like, the thing is that like, what do you think it ends up being?
Crystalline entity. No. Probably some like, glowing energy. Or just like a full out real ghost.
All right.
Or it could just be a child playing a mean trick on him. It's Alexander. No, I feel like it's. Oh, this would be so mean if someone like fucked around with the holodeck schematics to play this like joke on him. Or no, it's not a joke. I hate pranks, but I feel like if somebody did that, then like, I don't know. But that also feels just so mean. Yeah. I think maybe it's like somebody programmed something in the holodeck, or maybe when he, no, what if something, when he was like programming the holodeck to be like the transporter room, there was something going on in there at the same time. So it took on those characteristics of whatever the quirk, whatever was like going on there. So like there's something in the ship now. And yes.
Okay. We'll let you off the hook there. All right. Well, if you want to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.